All right. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Couch Warrior podcast. As always, I'm your host, Mike, and today I am joined by our Uncle Wheezy. What's up, Wheezy? How are you doing, brother? Are you looking forward to this card we've got?
Yeah, great card. Pay-per-view is fire from top to bottom. And then there's some interesting debutantes on this card, some lower level fights. Like we go from top-notch fights like Dvalishvili versus Cejudo, and then on the same card you got Ribeiro versus Zhang and Woodburn versus Elliot, like these like dumpster fires that are rolling downhill. So, but the best cards are always the ones where we find the right spots where we make money. And if we could find spots on these fights that we like that will help us stack cash tickets like flapjacks, we're gonna have some fun watching the fights on Saturday night.
Yes, sir. I'm looking forward. It's a great main card. Like you mentioned, a little bit lower level, more than a little bit lower level in the beginning. But
Yeah.
I think there's some good spots to be had even on the prelims. And we got a bunch to talk about. So we can jump right into it. I think we've got 12 fights on this card or 13. So let's hop right in. First up, we've got Andrea Lee versus Miranda Maverick. Lee's going to be 13-8-0, 35 years old. She's 5'6" with about a 70-inch reach. Maverick, 12-5-0. She's 26, going to be 9 years younger, 3 inches shorter, and giving up about 5 inches in reach. Why don't you start us off, Wheezy?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, I get why Maverick's the favorite here. She's 8 years younger. So that's always something that's going to give you right about minus 200 in terms if you look at just purely that analytic. These fighters are winning at over 60% when they've got that much of a weight of a age advantage. But everything else is very similar to me. Both these ladies throw a lot of volume at range. Both these ladies land more than the divisional average at range. They're both a little bit above average accuracy. They're both a little bit above average with their striking defense. They both have positive distance striking differentials. They both do pretty good work in the grappling exchanges, but the grappling efficiency rating, in my opinion, according to my numbers that I have here, Mike, I like Lee's efficiency a little bit better. She gets her takedowns at a higher clip. She defends them at a higher clip. And she seems to kind of hold her opponents down longer than her opponents hold her down. So laying this kind of juice on Miranda Maverick just doesn't seem like the smartest plan to me here. But like I say, when you're getting the younger fighter, it is a nice, comforting thing. But laying juice on women's MMA is something I'm extremely uncomfortable with, Mike. Extremely uncomfortable.
That makes two of us.
So if I'm going to do it, I have to have a little bit more than, well, I'm getting the younger fighter, because is Miranda Maverick the better striker? I mean, that's debatable. She's pretty good. Lee's pretty good. Is Miranda Maverick the better wrestler? I don't know, man, especially not defensively, right? We've seen some massive holes poked into her defensive wrestling and get-up game recently. But is Andrea Lee the type of fighter that's going to exploit those holes like Jazz Davicius did, like Aaron Blanchfield did, right? I don't think so. So this seems to me like a close fight. It's probably dog or pass here. Maybe you could talk me into something, though.
Yeah, no, I would never do that to you, Wheezy. I like you too much. I mean, look, at these odds, it's tempting. Plus 165. I went into the tape thinking I'd more than likely end up on Lee. I do like generally betting on her. She's often the underdog. She's often overlooked. And I think she's very solid. She's really well-rounded. She's a great striker. She's finishing women, which doesn't really happen often in this weight class. I do think she's pretty much always live for like a knockout or a knockdown at least. But this is a tough one for me because I can't get a read on the grappling, really. It's hard for me. Maverick, she's a great wrestler. She's got really good top control, great jiu-jitsu, nice back takes, transitions. She's got a great ground game. Is it going to work on Andrea Lee? After taping it, I think so. Lee has a really good get-up game and really good scrambling ability off of her back. But in terms of getting like the actual takedown defense, she's kind of just falling backwards almost every single time. And I feel like if Maverick is shooting, she is going to get the takedowns. And then we did see Arugio be able to control her. I think Arugio is maybe a little bit, not a maybe, I think she is stronger than Maverick. But at the same time, Lee really struggled to get her off of her. Arugio almost fell off of her back and still was able to adjust and keep position. And I feel like Maverick can do very similar things. If we're on the feet, I favor Andrea Lee, but not by a ton. Maverick is okay. She's been improving. She's really young. And I think every fight she has looked better and better on the feet. She's throwing more kicks now. She looks more comfortable with the hands. She's a southpaw. She's throwing that left hand more. So I think she can compete, but it's definitely in her best interest to take down Andrea Lee and then work from there. I think she probably wins the fight. Am I going to back her at minus 200? Absolutely not. And if the line keeps going, I will take a stab at Lee because she does have her own offensive wrestling. She does have good get-ups. And like I mentioned in the striking, I do favor her quite a bit. I really like what she does. She's got great output, a ton of tools on the feet. She's mixing it up. So, yeah, I'm going to pick Maverick to win. My money's probably going to stay off of this one. But if the line gets out of hand, if we get like plus 200 Andrea Lee, then my hand's going to be forced and I'll probably make a small play. I considered like the spread. I don't know if you ever checked those out, Weezy, but
I do.
I made a rule going into this year that no matter how confident I was about the spread, I'm not playing it at chalk because our judging is just too volatile.
Yeah.
Like I had one, it was Stephanie Egger's last fight against Luana Santos, and I had Egger plus 3.5, and it was a great read because she lost 29-28 or should have, but one judge gave 30-27. And there goes my ticket. So no matter how good your read is, one judge can just throw it out into the garbage and you paid chalk. So I can't do those anymore. I only play them if they're like plus money or close. But that definitely was a thing I considered because I think it's going to be a close fight no matter who wins. I think it's going to be close. If you guys like the split decision props, I usually stay off of those, but this is probably one that, it's kind of screaming to me split decision, especially with a lot of grappling, not too much damage from either side. Who knows? It's a tough one, but we can move on.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got a banger, don't we? We got Val Woodburn making his long-awaited debut. Return against Oban Elliot. Now Woodburn 7-1-0, 30 years old. He's 5'8". Don't have his reach right here. Do you have it, Weezy, on the stats?
For Woodburn or Elliot?
Woodburn.
Woodburn 74-inch reach.
Nice, 74-inch reach. And then Elliot 9-2-0. He's 26, 4 years younger, 4 inches taller at 6 feet tall, and he's going to have a 2-inch reach disadvantage. I'll start us off here. So, Woodburn, I believe he's the only person so far who's landed a punch on Bo Nickel. So, props to him. Major props. He is coming down in weight here, which it's tough to tell if that's going to be good or bad for him. Size-wise, he's teensy. He's tiny for middleweight. He's 5'8". He could be a lightweight at that height, but he's got this build. He's like a walking, talking mini refrigerator. And it might be a lot for him to cut down those extra 10 pounds or so. So that's a concern. But as it is, like I like Woodburn. He's cool. I like that he stepped up against Bo Nickel. I don't think he's all that great. His striking is pretty limited. He has those big right left hooks. Not much. He's not really throwing anything straight. His wrestling's pretty decent, honestly. You see it on the regionals. He's taking down a lot of guys. I don't really know what his takedown defense looks like because it hasn't really been tested all that much. But a short, stocky guy like that is very difficult to take down a lot of the times. And then on the other side, Elliot, I do think he's the better mixed martial artist. I think he's probably more skilled everywhere. He is coming off the Contender Series. He fought really good striker in Kike Brito. And that was a tough fight for him. He almost got knocked out. I do think Brito would have finished him if he didn't just like swing like a madman when he had him literally hurt against the fence and he just starts missing. And then at that point, I was like, all right, he's done. I was like Wiz was actually at my house that day and we were watching together. And I was like, dude, our ticket's done. He's toast after this. And that's what happened. Elliot, I used to love betting him on Cage Warriors because he's old reliable. You know what you're getting, and you know every single time he's going to do the same thing. He's going to be a good, decent striker, serviceable, and then he's going to get those takedowns. He's going to win minutes, and he's going to win the fight. So I don't know if he's going to be able to take Woodburn down. That's a big question mark. But even if it's on the feet, I'm fairly comfortable in saying that I think he's the better striker as well. Just think he's the better mixed martial artist overall. He's the younger man, still going to be improving. Woodburn at 30, not sure how much improvement we're going to see. But I'm not playing a side. I'm not betting Woodburn, and I don't want to bet Elliot at minus 300. What I did like was the over. I really liked the over 2.5. It was priced at plus 155 when I made my move. And I like it quite a bit. I think we're going to go all 15. I think we're going to see a lot of grappling, a lot of cage pushing, a lot of hugging against the fence, and not a ton of striking. And in terms of power, Woodburn probably has more power. But do I think he's going to knock out Elliot? Probably not. He could. It's a possibility. We've seen Elliot be hurt before, but I don't think Woodburn's really got the style, the technique to go and finish the fight, get him down and finish him. And I don't think he's going to one punch him either. So I think we're going to go over. That's the one bet I like. I don't really like picking a side here. I mean, I'll pick Elliot to win, but I'm not going to place any bets on the money lines. How about you, Weezy?
Yeah, we have pretty similar reads on this fight. The thing about Woodburn is that I really don't know who he is, and I've watched all the tape. I've watched all the available tape. So, I know who he is as a fighter, but what do the wins over Miles Black Santa Amos mean? What Brandon Boss Hog Johnson? What is that? What does that put him in terms of Oban Elliot? Because Oban is a well-tested British fighter, from Wales. He's fighting in Cage Warriors. He's out there against guys like Flaminis, guys like Figlak, guys like Brito, guys like Sheehan and McCormack and Bonner. These are good regional scene fighters, so he's much more well-tested, while Woodburn's coming out of the Combat Night Pro promotion, fighting guys that are not great. And then you look at him and he's cage pushing dudes. He's really explosive with his takedowns. He can pick you up and slam you down. But once he gets on top of you, he doesn't really do much, and he doesn't really look like he's got the endurance to grapple for 15 minutes, not with that kind of a body type. So I probably would have bet the over here if I had any faith in Valentine Woodburn's skill set as a fighter, but betting Valentine Woodburn on Valentine's Day week is something that could potentially be plus EV. If we just throw out the tape, if we throw out the statistics, I think you got to bet Valentine Woodburn, but you don't want to make those kind of bets, do you? Where you're throwing out the tape, throwing out the logic, throwing out the stats, So I'm staying away from this one. I do think that the over is a decent play here. Is Oban Elliot not much of a finisher? And Val Woodburn, definitely somebody who might really try to hold you up against the cage for long periods of time. And Oban Elliot, somebody that could take you down and get on top of you, but not necessarily bring enough offense there or submission game there to finish you either. So, yeah, if you put a gun to my head and said you got to bet something in this fight, it would probably be the over 2.5 or the fight goes. But I'm really happy staying away from this one.
It's probably for the best. Yeah, it's entirely possible that Woodburn comes out there, gasses maybe halfway into the second, and then Elliot gets him out of there, because you don't have to be an amazing finisher to put someone out when they're just done. So hopefully I'm okay with that over. I think it's a good spot, but a lot of question marks on that fight. Can't blame anyone for staying away.
Yeah.
But moving on, we've got a really fun fight. We got Josh Quinlan versus Danny Left Hand to God Barlow, one of the best nicknames in the game. Quinlan, he's going to be 6-1-0, 31 years old, 6 feet tall with a 72-inch reach. Barlow on the other side, he's 7-0 undefeated, going to be 3 years younger, 2 inches taller. And he's got an 80-inch reach, so he's got an 8-inch reach advantage here. Weezy, why don't you start us off?
Fun fight. I watched all the tape on Barlow. One of the best nicknames in the game and one of the worst haircuts. A rat tail in 2024. Come on, Danny. You could do so much better than that. That's giving the entire city of Memphis a bad name when you're coming out there with rat tails and double rat tails. And he even had kind of like this Charles Johnson-esque rat tail where
I was going to say he didn't learn from Johnson.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, he shaved everything but a patch, like a rat-like patch on the back of his neck from which rat tails were hanging. So, what do we say about bad haircuts? Bad decisions in the barber's chair leads to bad decisions in the cage and bad decisions in life in general. So that's something I'm worried about. But, the other thing about Quinlan is when you watch the tape on him, he's got a 100% finish rate, but he's not going out there and just starching hose in the first round for the most part. He did that on DWCS, on Dana White's Contender Series against Logan Urban, who took the fight on less than 72 hours notice. And then Quinlan's piss melted through the cup after the fight too. So that's one of his early finishes. But, even like against Joe Borshig, who's a bum, and some of these guys that he fought in LFA and prior to that, it's taken him a while to find the finish. And he's kind of a low volume striker, very powerful. He's got good boxing. He's tight. Everything comes crisp and down the middle. He's not wild. He doesn't get out over his toes. He tries to kind of bring you in and draw out the counters and find that big right hand of his. But Barlow is so much better of a striker than him at range. Barlow is an absolute sniper. This guy is very patient. He's low volume. But man, when he decides to throw, there's a very high percentage that it's not just going to land, but end your night. And the fights that he hasn't finished, I think you'd probably agree with me, Mike, that he could have easily finished both of them. He just didn't show the kind of urgency you would expect him to. But I'm not sure how Quinlan wins this fight. I mean, he got 1 takedown on 8 attempts versus a guy like Waters, who's a tall guy, tough to take down. But it's not his game. You can't go back in time before the Waters tape and find a time where Quinlan was really offensive wrestling and winning a ton of minutes with his ground game. And if he can't do that against Barlow, dude, I think he's completely outclassed at range here. I've got a 1.5 unit bet. I was looking at the under 1.5, Mike, at about plus 105. I was sitting there going, I think I'm going to take this. And then I did a couple things. I came back later. It was plus 145. So I went 1.5 units. I might wind up throwing my remote through the television and screaming at Danny Barlow going, please, for the love of God, throw something. But you know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of Prates. They both have a phenomenal straight left hand. They both do a great job of maintaining distance with their kicks. Their kicks are super long and powerful. But the precision on that straight left hand counter is just as good for Prates as it is for Barlow. So I'm thinking Barlow first or second round knockout here. I think it happens under 1.5 rounds, but I think at some point, like Barlow could be losing this fight like Prates was to Giles. But all it takes is one with this guy.
Yeah, that Prates fight made me so nervous. I had him against Giles, and I was like, damn it. I could have seen this coming. And then the knockout came, and I was like, I knew it.
Yeah.
Never a doubt. But yeah, so I'm on an island here. I am on Quinlan. I did end up playing his money line. I think I played it at plus 1. I want to say 60 something, like plus 163, something like that. And then I also played his submission prop at plus 850 for 0.2 units. And here's my angle. So Barlow, without a doubt, is the cleaner striker, without a doubt. And that left hand counter is going to be there all day, because something I noticed with Quinlan is he'll overextend and he's wide open to the left hand, wide open. So I'm making this bet knowing that there's that risk that he can get sniped and he can be put out. But at the same time, I think people are looking at the Waters fight and looking at the reach, right? Waters had a big reach advantage. Barlow has a big reach advantage. Maybe it'll be similar. I don't really see that kind of range management coming out of Barlow. Like that, Trey Waters fought a perfect fight in that match. He kept his range, moved in and out. He knew when to counter. He knew when to wait. He didn't rush in, and he did a great job. And he really frustrated Quinlan. He made him shoot. He made him miss. Couldn't really get his takedowns going. But there was a few things there. Like, first off, the fact that he was shooting the takedowns was already a good thing for me, because he was clearly losing on the feet. And you don't want a guy who's going to come out there, be losing, and not try to do something to change the fight. He tried. But also from experience, I know that taking down tall guys like that, who also have really long reach and can tripod up, when I wrestled, I hated that. I would much rather shorter guys. I hated wrestling tall dudes, because I would go in for like a single or something. They would tripod, and then I'd struggle to get them down. And I related with Quinlan when I was watching him try to get Waters down. I was like, I know how that is. And I'm watching Barlow, and in the DePuma fight, that was a big red flag for me. DePuma, 1-0 at the time. Now he's 1-1, has never fought since. Not a high caliber guy. Came out there and took him down real easy in that first round. And Barlow gave up his back immediately. DePuma took it. and he had his back. And if he was a better fighter, he probably could have finished him there. Quinlan is a black belt. We haven't seen it in action much. I think he has one rear naked choke, and unfortunately, I couldn't get the tape on that one. That would have been great, but so I am taking a bit of a shot in the dark. But knowing that Barlow, to me, seems to have a very green ground game, and he does seem like a guy who comes from a striking background and hasn't really wrestled much. And knowing that Quinlan will at least shoot if he's uncomfortable and does have a jiu-jitsu black belt and does train at Wanderlei Silva's camp, those are all good things to me. And at range, again, yeah, he's definitely not as clean, but if he can crash that pocket, which I do think he can, he's dangerous. He's got the power. His hands are pretty fast, and he's got good counters. And in the Barlow-Raheem Forrest fight early on, when Barlow, he tends to overextend, and he overextended a little bit, and Forrest hit him, and he knocked him down. I know the commentary said it was a slip. I don't know what you think about that, but to me, that didn't look like no slip. That looked like he got caught clean. He recovered well, but to me, that showed, he's also open to the counters. It's not like he's perfect with that range management. I don't think he's on the level of Waters in terms of doing that. So for me, the dog shot on Quinlan seemed like a good play. The sub prop, I think, is a real sneaky look. And yeah, I'm going into this knowing full well I could end up looking like an absolute moron if he just sparks him with that left hand to God. But at the same time, I think I've got a pretty decent angle. So yeah, took my shot, and now I'm looking forward to see what happens.
Yeah, it's a great fight, and I'm interested to see what Barlow can do. I think the power is real there, and yeah, I think he's going to outclass him at range. But the grappling game is an unknown here, and I feel safe on the Barlow side just because we haven't seen much evidence of like I say, Quinlan offensively wrestling and being like, oh wow, it wasn't going his way on the feet. Now he actually wound up getting takedowns, getting the top control. A lot of times when he gets top control, it was when his opponent was shooting in and he was just reversing them. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see. It's a good fight. We'll see how Barlow does.
Yeah, it would be something if Quinlan gets a sub pace. Yeah, I took a small shot on it, Daz. Could end up looking genius.
Yeah.
My guy Tyler, what's up, brother? Make sure you guys are checking out Tyler. That's my co-host for the panel. We will be going live on Thursday, 9:30 p.m. So make sure you guys check that out and make sure you're subscribing to Tyler. He is the man. But moving on, we've got another violent fight, I would say. We got Mingyang Zhang versus Brendson Ribeiro. Zhang, he's 16-6-0, 25 years old. He's 6'2" with a 75-inch reach. And he does appear to be at Extreme Couture for this camp, if I'm not mistaken. Ribeiro, 15-5-0. He's 27, going to be 2 years older, 1 inch taller, and he's going to have a 6-inch reach advantage. I'll start us off here. So for me, I can't touch this fight just because there's so many question marks. I only had like 4 fights for Zhang, and the only recent one was the one on the road to UFC, and that was a year ago. And he looked pretty good. He was a huge underdog there. He looked like a good striker, good counters, good forward pressure, definitely hittable. So it's really hard to get a read on him. And you go back in the older tape, and of course you see the Oscar Mozarov knockout loss, which is a red flag. But at the same time, it is worth noting that was in 2018. He was a 19-year-old kid at that time. And he looked okay in that fight until he didn't. He got some takedowns, couldn't really control Mozarov, though. It's tough because I think he's got a lot of good to him, and he can come out here and he could look like a stud because he's taken off like over a year now since his last fight on the road to UFC, or I think even longer than that. And he's just inactive. Before that, he fought like a year before that. He's not fighting often. On the Ribeiro side, also really hard to know what to make of him, to be completely honest. Sometimes he's looking great. Like he's offensively wrestling. He's able to keep and maintain the range, use his really long reach, throwing nice, straight, clean down the pipe. And then at other times, he's just getting rocked nonstop. He's getting taken down super easy. He's making terrible decisions. I don't remember exactly what fight it was, but he gets the guy down, establishes top control, and then pulls a Brundage, goes for the guillotine, ends up on bottom, reverses, ends up back on top, and does it again, just like our boy Brundage. And I can't bet on a guy like that. I can't, especially knowing that Zhang, he is improving from fight to fight. He is at Extreme Couture. He has been out for like a year or whatever it is, and he could come in here and look even better. And if he can come out here, if he can not give Ribeiro his range, back him up. He's going to be landing a lot more. He's going to be landing cleaner. And if he can mix in the grappling, I think he probably wins this fight. But I don't like betting unknowns anymore. I don't like throwing my money in the garbage. So in terms of a pick, from the tape I have, I'm going to pick Ribeiro. My assumptions from what I know kind of make me want to pick Zhang, but from the tape, from what I've seen, I'm going to go with Ribeiro. I do think he's got the knockout power. I do think he's fast. I think he has a lot of upside also, and he's also pretty young. But with the bad fight IQ, with the fact that he's wilted before, I can't do it. So I'm going to stay away. How about you, Easy?
I've got a bet on this fight. I bet Ribeiro. I got him at plus 124 before the line moved. And this was just simply a strength of schedule thing for me. This was two bad fighters. They're both young. They're both improving. But with Ribeiro, you got a 7-inch reach advantage. You got a height advantage. And like, let me read off the wins for you since 2020 on. Ali Rezi Vafaei from Iran, 4-2. Chang Chuen Ho, 2-6. He's beaten this guy twice, by the way. An Ding Ma, 8-6. The Plain Wolf from China. Hong Yan Tian. This guy actually has titties, and he's 2-5. He beat him twice. Okay.
2 rematches.
Yes. Yeah. Like as if the first ass shaving wasn't enough. He beat a 6-11 Kai Bao Zhang. He beats Handong Kong, who's 9-8 and who has a shitty dye job, a Chinese dude with blonde hair, so I don't think that's his natural hair color. Yeah, and then Kalibao Zhang twice, that 6-11, like I said. And, Handong Kong again, Chang Chuen Ho again, and then it's George Tacos. And the Tacos win's great. The pressure's great. The striking looks straight. It's right down the middle. But the problem is, Tacos trains in South Florida and goes to Singapore for that fight on the week of the fight. So he's probably jet lagged, tired, fucked up, doesn't know where he is, or all of those things. And he looked fat too. He's a 185 he take that fight at 205, and he just looks fat and out of shape and not ready to go. So I don't know if I can't say that the Tacos win means anything. Then look at the difference in strength of schedule. Instead of fighting these Chinese cans that have titties and fake blonde hair, this guy's going to Russia and fighting in M1 and in Fight Nights Global. He's fighting in Future and Jungle Fight. He's fighting guys that have got 20, 30 fights. Even one of his losses, he taps the dude out to a triangle choke. He lets the guy out of the choke, and then the ref tells him to keep fighting. He didn't even count the choke, and then he winds up losing that fight by majority decision. So massive strength of schedule advantage here on the side of Ribeiro. Massive reach advantage here on the side of Ribeiro. And from what I've seen, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is way better on the Ribeiro side in terms of actually being able to get sweeps and submissions, whether you're on top or whether you're on the bottom here. But the one big hole I saw in his game, in Ribeiro's game, was if his opponent gets on top of him, his ability to be able to defend against ground and pound is not good at all. And he can, like Cody Brundage, look terrible when he's on his back and like he has no clue what to do. So, yeah, I like Ribeiro here. I got him at plus 125. The line is shifted now, and it's a lot closer to a pick'em. And I think that's where it should be, or even a slight favorite in terms of Ribeiro, because, like I say, this guy's got the reach and he's got the massive strength of schedule advantage here.
Yeah, I actually wrote the same thing in my notes, that I felt like Ribeiro is probably the rightful slight favorite here. But I can't do it with so many question marks. But you did kind of talk me into it. If I get a better line, I might reconsider, because you're right. The strength of schedule difference is huge here. And Ribeiro does show flashes of brilliance. It's just like I can't afford another TV. So if he does the whole guillotine thing and I have to break my television, not going to be able to watch the fights anymore. Won't be too great for me. So we'll see what happens there. But
here's my impression of me if he jumps guillotine and lets this guy on top of him. Brendson, no! That's going to be me. That's going to be me yelling at my television, just like I could see it happening.
That would be brutal. But yeah, I definitely see the angle, and he's young too. For some reason before the tape, I was like, this guy's like 33 or something, and no, he's only 27, and he is improving. Seems to be making less terrible decisions. So let's see what happens here for that one. We can move on though. This I don't know what your ass shaving of the week is, but I have a guess that this might be it. We've got Rinya Nakamura versus Carlos Vera. Nakamura 8-0 undefeated. He's 28 years old, 5'7" with a 68-inch reach. Vera on the other side, coming out of the tough house, 11-3-0. Going to be 8 years older at 36 as a bantamweight, 1 inch shorter, and he's going to have about an inch reach advantage. Weezy, why don't you start us off for this one?
Believe it or not, I like Nakamura here. Okay,
That's crazy, dude.
He's pretty good. If you haven't seen him fight yet, Mike, you should. He's pretty good, this kid. And then you got Carlos Vera, who's a debutant at 36 years of age. Kind of, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to call Carlos Vera. I mean, he's got a Taekwondo base for his striking. He's okay at range. He's a decent grappler. He trains with Ryan Hall over at 50-50 martial arts. So he's got some tricky leg locks and an okay submission game, but he gives up position a lot. He's a little bit submission over position, and his striking isn't particularly scary. I think there's about a 0% chance that he out grapples Nakamura, that he out scrambles him, that he out wrestles him. Could he catch him in like a Hail Mary heel hook? Of course that could happen. I mean, it's MMA. Strange things happen. Even when Muniz caught Jacare in that arm bar, that wasn't like a great arm bar. So Jacare tried to roll and he got his arm stuck. And then Muniz is like, oh, that's here? Snap. Things happen. Weird things happen when you get into grappling positions. Vera could find something here, but I mean, it's Nakamura minus 1350. You don't need my help on this. Don't parlay it. Maybe
so you're
play
saying
a time
13
prop.
units to win one, Weezy?
I don't advocate 13 and a half unit plays to win 1 unit. I want that very clear here on the Couch Warrior podcast, that your Uncle Weezy doesn't advocate that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Nakamura do his thing, man, because this guy his wrestling is so fun to watch. His ability to be able to scramble and beat his opponent to spots and come out on top when you think he might not be able to, when it looks like, oh my God, I think he does. Rinya's right back on top. He's phenomenal. So I'm looking forward to watching him do his thing.
Local man shakes fist. I don't think a minus 1300 line is ever amazing. Like, what do you do with that? You parlay it adds what, a cent, 2 cents to your parlay? I wouldn't advocate for that one. I mean, if you're going to parlay anything, maybe his ITD, but I don't even know what that is. It might be like minus 800.
I think it is. I think it's like minus 700 inside the distance or some shit. So, yeah, I mean, if I was being a contrarian here, I might bet the over, because, Vera's a pretty good, fighter. I mean, he's okay. He's more experienced than Rinya. He's fought the better level of competition over the long term in comparison to Rinya. So, yeah, I mean, Rinya's 2 wins are over guys that are combined 0-5 in the UFC. So, but this isn't exactly a step up, is it?
Yeah, I don't think so. For me, I'm not going to waste much time here. Nakamura is an absolute stud. He's going to be something without a doubt in this division. Really looking forward to seeing him fight more and more. For me, I just did one thing here. I saw the decision prop for him opened up at plus 850. So I threw a quarter unit there. Because I had like 3 units on his ITD prop last time and almost needed a new TV that time.
Yeah.
And after seeing Fernie just get wilted by Hyder and Neal, the fact that Nakamura couldn't get him out of there, it kind of shook me a little bit. So do I think it goes to a decision? Most likely not. I think I'm probably going to throw away that quarter unit. Nakamura probably sparks him, but I think it was worth a shot, and the line movement seems to agree with me. I think his decision now is like plus 325, something like that. So I took a little stab. If you wanted like an inside the distance prop for him, I'd go with the sub. It's like plus 240 because everyone is loving this knockout prop, but his submission game is nasty. He's a phenomenal wrestler, and I just think he's more likely to go for the sub than he is to go and chase the knockout. So if I was playing something like that, I'd choose the sub. But I took my little sprinkle on the decision. I'm just going to ride with that.
Yeah, I like that sub play because even though Nakamura has 6 finishes and 5 of them are KOs, Vera's been finished twice, both times by submission. And like you say, man, and Nakamura's submission game is phenomenal. His grappling game is phenomenal. His control is phenomenal. He could be landing massive ground and pound, get the back, and dude might just lift up his chin and be like, get me out of here. I've got 3 fights left on this deal that I signed because I agreed to take a Nakamura fight, and this one's not going to go my way, but maybe the next one will.
Yeah, till they throw him to Umar or somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, they gave Umar some debutante as if this guy isn't top 10 already, and they're bringing him some Central Asian guy, that's never fought in the UFC. It's like, this is the best we could do. Is everybody's phone broken when Umar needs a fight?
Evidently, yeah, I don't know how you go from Sanhagen to that other fella. The other guy's pretty good. I've watched him a bit. He's a good fighter, but Umar's it's just a crazy debut fight to have. Yeah. But all right, we can move on. Next up, we've got, this is going to be a shit show. I can tell you guys this. We've got Marcos Rogerio de Lima versus Justin Tafa. De Lima, 21-9-1, 38 years old. He's 6'1" with a 75-inch reach. Tafa, 7-3-0. He's going to be 8 years younger, 1 inch shorter, and be at a 1 inch reach disadvantage. I'll start us off here. I mean, I went into this. I spoke to a lot of people that I trust, that I think are very sharp, and they're on De Lima. And I can definitely see it, right? The few times that Tafa's been extended, the few times that he didn't fight a Harry Hunsucker or a Parker Porter, he lost. He lost in close striking matches, and he could be outstruck over 15 minutes. So I was thinking, it might be a good spot for De Lima. He's a vet. He's fought much better guys. I know he can go 3 rounds, even though he doesn't seem to have the best cardio. He can at least do it. He can grapple for 3 rounds. The leg kicks are really, really nice. I mean, he beat the crap out of Cortez's legs. But then I started looking at it, and I noticed a few things. So first off, De Lima's 1-3 against southpaws. Tafa is a southpaw, and De Lima is open to that left hook counter. He's very open to the lefts. And I was interested if the leg kicks would work the same against a southpaw, because against an orthodox fighter, orthodox, the leg kick was right there. But then against a southpaw, it might not be there. So I turned on the Blagoy-Ivanov fight, because Ivanov is a southpaw. And he only got four of them there. He only attempted 6. He got 4. But he looked uncomfortable when he was throwing them. And he looked like he was wide open for a counter when he did it. So to me, that was already like, all right, maybe I'm not as excited about this. On top of that, also, Tafa's got wheelbarrows for legs. So I don't know how effective they're going to be. I know Vandera was able to get a lot of leg kicks off against him. But Vandera is also much bigger, and he's got longer legs than somebody like De Lima. So De Lima has to do it from closer, where Vandera was able to at least maintain some semblance of range. De Lima's going to have to do it up close. So that kind of threw me off. And then also, if I'm betting De Lima at chalk here at -140, I want to know that he is going to be able to get takedowns. And I don't know what Tafa's takedown defense really looks like. It's 100% because he defended 1 takedown from Carlos Felipe, a boxer, and 1 takedown from Harry Hunsucker, of all people. But, it could be good. It could be terrible, but it also could be good. And I don't like betting on or against unknowns. So for me, I'm going to pick De Lima still, just because I trust him more. I know he can go the distance. I know he does have that grappling. He does have the jiu-jitsu. And his striking is also very good. He's a great boxer. He's got a ton of power. We've seen Tafa get knocked out clean against, who was it?
Jorgen De
Castro. And what happened there? Tafa ran right in and just got caught by a hook, and De Lima throws the same punch with a ton of pop. So I think De Lima probably gets him out of there at some point, whether it's a knockout or a submission. But I'm going to stay away just because I saw a few red flags that I just didn't like very much. So how about you, Weezy?
Dude, I got no action on this fight, and like, I would bet fight doesn't start round 2, but I mean, it's juice. You're not even getting plus money on it, and so that makes it a really hard bet to make. Maybe throw it in the greasy 4-legger or something. But if this fight gets out of the first, probably goes the full 15. Look, De Lima's never finished a guy where he didn't finish him in the first round. Tafa's never finished a guy where he didn't finish him in the first round. Every fight that's gotten out of the first round for both of these guys has went to decision. And Tafa's 0-2 in decisions, but DeLima's 4-2 in decisions with a draw. So, yeah, I mean, I feel the same way where I don't like the over. Like, I wouldn't bet the over 1.5. I would bet the fight goes, because I feel like if it goes over 1.5, it probably goes the full 15, because neither one of these guys in their entire careers, 42 combined fights for Tafa or Rogerio de Lima, has ever gotten a finish in the second or third round. So, not saying that it couldn't happen. Obviously, it could happen. But, and to your point, right? Tafa's only seen 2 takedown attempts. So I think a lot of people are assuming that de Lima is going to be able to take him down. But in the heavyweight division, the average takedowns per 15 minutes is 1.09. That's the divisional average. If you take all the heavyweight fights and take both fighters' stats since 2013, you're getting 1.09 takedowns per 15 minutes. That's because when a dude has an ass that's as big as the moon, it's hard to take them down. You know, we just saw Thomas Peterson go out there and try to take down Jamal Pogues, and Pogues has got, you know, like an ass that most dudes wouldn't even be able to get their arms around. You know, I mean, you're talking about like 55-inch hips. Trying to take guys down like that, the ass can be a gigantic counterbalance. You know, it's like a counterweight, you know, where it gives you the weight in the direction that you need to avoid the takedown if it's not a blast double coming right at you, you know? So, yeah, man, this could be a really sloppy fight. And I think if it doesn't finish in the first round, it probably goes the distance. I think Rogerio de Lima has more ways to win, because both these guys got crazy power on the feet. 2.63% of the distance strikes that de Lima lands result in a knockout at distance, and it's 2.37% for Tafa. But de Lima's more experienced. He's the better grappler. He's been the guy who's demonstrated the ability to win minutes with his grappling. He's faced the much better brand of competition and beaten the much better brand of competition. So Tafa is kind of like knockout or bust here. But that's what he does, and it's what he does really well, and either one of these guys can get caught. So I'm kind of agnostic on who wins the fight, but for the sake of a pick, I'm going de Lima, and I'm actually picking him to win by decision here, because I think that what de Lima does, if he's smart, is he goes out there and he grapples from the word go and just sees if Justin can handle it. And if he does that successfully, it probably goes a full 15.
Now that you brought that up, Weezy, I pulled it up. De Lima by decision on Bet Rivers, Unibet. There's a lot of skins for this book. Plus 600.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of tempting. That is pretty tempting. And Fight Goes is plus 350, which also isn't bad.
You know, and Tafa's lost decisions to Jared Vandera and who's the other bum that he lost the decision to? Yeah. I mean, you know, so de Lima could beat him, you know, on points too, you know, so if this thing does go the full 15. So, yeah, interesting spot. Like I say, I get all the love on de Lima. I'm not going to get there on his money line, but I might try a cheeky little play for Fight Goes or de Lima by decision or something like that for small.
Yeah, I might join you there too, because I tend to think this is going to go out of the first. And like you said, both guys then slow down. They lose a little bit of their pop.
Yeah.
And especially if de Lima starts grappling, we might have a pretty easy decision on our hands. So I'll see what happens. But, you know, I think I might do it. I think the plus 600 definitely gave me some interest. I wonder what it's probably not playable, but I wonder what de Lima decision only is. That could be something if it's a decent line. Let me actually pull it up. Bet Online recently started actually offering it. Before they only offered finish only.
They got it at minus 260. So that tells you they know they're onto it. This is a closely lined fight, but they're saying if it goes to full 15, we know from the past evidence that we have of both these guys in the cage that de Lima's the better minute winner. And both of these guys can win moments. So that's why de Lima's the rightful favorite, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you there, and might end up joining you on those little sprinkles. But moving on, we've got Amanda Lemos versus Mackenzie Dern coming in on relatively short notice. Lemos was originally supposed to fight Suarez. She lost the title fight, and they said, okay, we're done with you here. Let's feed you to Tatiana Suarez. Lemos, she's going to be 13-3-1. She's 36 years old, 5'4" with a 65-inch reach. On the other side, Dern, she's 13-4-0. 30 years old. She's going to be 6 years younger, going to be the same height and have a 2-inch reach disadvantage. Why don't you start us off, Weezy?
Oh, yeah. So I like the fact that Mackenzie's younger. I love her pressure on the feet. I think she's finally starting to fight in a way where she's highlighting her strengths and hiding her weaknesses. And look, when you're the better grappler, you better be pressuring, right? Because it's so much easier to take somebody down when they're on their back foot than when they're on their front foot. And Mackenzie doesn't need to get takedowns in order to be effective. She could try to get to your back standing. She could pull guard and be just as effective. So I love it when I see Mackenzie pressuring because I just want her in the kitchen of her opponent. I don't want her standing at range, with Amanda Lemos, because if Lemos lands on you, your head is going to probably leave your body and maybe the cage too. So it's going to be interesting because she might walk onto something too. Dern could absolutely walk onto a sweet counter from Lemos, and Lemos has got that natural power that is very rare. You just don't see that kind of power in the women's featherweight division, but Lemos absolutely has it. So it's a pretty fascinating matchup because Dern hasn't been the one takedown and done submission grappler that a lot of people make her out to be. She's had she had Tisha Torres in several bad spots. She had Marina Rodriguez in 2 bad spots. She had Jan in a couple of bad spots. She had Angela Hill in several bad spots. Didn't finish any of those fights. So I don't know if Lemos, she's only been subbed once, and it was by Jessica Andrade, somebody who beat Mackenzie Dern as well. This is one I'm probably not going to get anywhere near because if I bet on Dern, I realize there's a very high likelihood that she just gets absolutely and violently slept. And if I'm betting on Lemos, the first takedown, I'm probably ripping up my ticket and walking out the door because it's just terrifying to watch Mackenzie Dern on top of somebody that you bet on.
Yeah, 100%. Wheezy, any thoughts on the age being a factor?
It could be. I mean, we're talking about a 36-year-old fighter going up against somebody who's pushing 31, so you got the 5 years younger fighter here in Mackenzie Dern, and that definitely means something. 2 different trajectories. What the UFC wants could be on full display when this thing goes to decision, if it does, right? So yeah, it's an interesting fight. I don't really have much of a lean one way or another. I'm picking Mackenzie Dern, but I don't care about picks a lot of the time. For me, it's I can either find bettable lines to profit from or I can't.
Yeah, for sure. So for me, I thought I was going to stay away. I do regret not getting the early line on Dern. I remember seeing like plus 250 or something and thinking to myself, this is bananas.
Yeah.
But I've been trying not to like bet too far in advance unless I love the line. Because last year, I think I rushed a lot of my tape and it ended up in a pretty rough year for me. So now I'm really taking my time. But, watching it now, I think this is like recency bias, like to the max.
Yeah.
People look at Dern. They had her in their parlays. And this is something I've noticed so many times now is where people will parlay someone when they definitely should not have parlayed them. Like parlaying Dern at minus 250 against Andrade. And then after that, they'll say, you know what? Dern is horrible. She sucks.
Yeah.
No, you just made a bad move. It doesn't mean the fighter's terrible, And I did the same thing. I'm pretty sure I had Dern in a parlay. I'm not out here saying she sucks. I made a bad move. Yes, Andrade knocked her out, right? For sure. But here's the thing. Andrade is this short, stocky lady, which we know she has incredible power, and so does Lemos. But I think Andrade has a little bit more pop. There's just something to her, and that forward pressure. I think her takedown defense is much better than Lemos's. For Andrade, it's easy to look at the Blanchfield fight and all that and be like, oh, Andrade sucks with the takedown defense. But no, she doesn't. She stuffed a bunch of Blanchfield shots too. I think that Lemos has a much weaker takedown defense than someone like Andrade. I think that once you have her on her back, she's got a much weaker game. I mean, Weili Zhang, she's a beast. Don't get me wrong. We all know that. She's one of the best in the world. But she's not like a grappler first. That's something that came later in her career. She's not a jiu-jitsu specialist like Dern. And she was able to dominate. She was able to take the back multiple times. And someone like Dern, you give her those opportunities, she's going to take advantage. Now, at the same time, do I want to bet Dern's money line? No, because I'm watching her fight and I see that damn chin up in the air and it's just like, you're asking for it. And Andrade took advantage, and can Lemos? Absolutely. She's got insane power. But over 15 minutes, I'm not a huge fan of Lemos in terms of minute winning.
Yeah.
Against Angela Hill, I think she lost that fight. I'm a little biased. I had a plus 350 Angela Hill ticket, but it seems like most people agree with me there. I don't think she's the best minute winner. Her output isn't amazing. I think she has a weak grappling game defensively. And I think Dern can take advantage. And Dern has improved leaps and bounds. In every single fight, she looks like a much better striker. Even against Andrade, she was landing, especially early. She looked very good. It was just that damn chin in the air. I think she should beat Lemos here. I'm actually going to pick her outright. I didn't want to bet her money line because of this, because I'm not putting money on her money line and just watching her get knocked out when I know it's a possibility. But someone in my Discord pointed it out. I didn't even know that BetOnline started offering decision only. They've had the finish only prop for years now, but no decision only. They dropped it for this card, and it was plus 200 on Dern.
Whoa.
And yes, plus 200. And I immediately put a unit down, because if you tell me we're going to decision, I'm gonna say Dern probably wins like almost every single time if we're going to decision. Lemos can maybe win a decision based off damage, but the minute winning all looks like it's going to be Dern. Better output, better pressure, better offensive grappling, better grappling all around. So for me, that was pretty easy. And if, like I mentioned earlier, I think if Dern loses, it's her getting knocked out because of the chin in the air. And if that happens, I get my money back. So I love the plus 200 for the decision only.
That's a bizarre line to me. I'm just going to go look at some stats right here. So, yeah, I mean, it's not like Lemos is this killer in decisions. She's 2-1 in decisions in the UFC, and Mackenzie's 4-3. But like you said, we just saw Lemos get taken down and dominated on the ground, lose a ton of minutes to somebody who's not as good of a control grappler and finisher as Mackenzie Dern. So if the Lemos takedown defense doesn't hold up and Dern gets her down in 2 of the 3 rounds, she wins a decision here because she's gonna dominate. She's gonna be chaining submission to get attempts together, and Lemos is gonna have no choice. That's the thing. When Dern gets on top of you, you have no choice but to play defense. You can't be offensive. You can't try to stand up and give up your back. The fight will be over. So usually when you see Dern get on top, it means the round's over. She's won the round. Now you just, as her opponent, your job is not to lose the fight in that round, not to get subbed, because the next round is going to start on the feet, But I love that bet. I'm going to join you I'm just going to join you right now for 1 unit there, because that line, no, it doesn't make any sense, because I think Dern's ability to win minutes in the grappling exchanges here is going to be right on point here, and Lemos loses minutes where Dern wins them. So that's very important.
Yeah, and you mentioned Lemos 2-1 to the decision, but arguably she should have lost that Angela Hill fight. So she could be 1-2 here going into this one in decisions, had the judges probably gotten that one right.
I think that's such a great look, and I'm joining you. 1 unit to win 2. Let's go. Kenzie Dern decision only.
And if she gets caught with her chin, we get our money back, and we're chilling.
There you go. And I think that's most likely to happen early, because Lemos just doesn't carry that power later on in fights.
Yeah, she
especially
slows
when
down.
She's getting grappled.
Yep. But all right, we can move on. We're up to the main card now. We've got a fight that I've seen a lot of different opinions on. We've got Anthony Fluffy Hernandez versus Roman Kopylov. Hernandez, he's going to be 11-2-0, 30 years old. He's 6 feet tall with a 75-inch reach. Kopylov, 12-2-0. He's 2 years older. Same height, same reach. I'll start us off here. So I don't blame anybody taking the dog shot on Kopylov. I do think Kopylov is real good. And I've been backing him for a minute now when everybody else kind of was ready to throw him in the garbage. I backed him against DiChirico. I backed him against Soriano. I backed him against Ribeiro. I backed him against Fremd. All those fights. But I love backing guys like Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. And I don't know if Weezy's there right now, but I know Weezy's on the same page, because I like to watch Stat Diggers a lot. And JSP, Fluffy Hernandez, Merab. Those three guys, I have them all in the same category of I just love betting on them. I know JSP just got caught in his last fight, but I love backing guys who are relentless with the grappling, have the cardio to keep it going, have nonstop pressure, both with the grappling and with the output on the feet. And I just really like backing guys like that. And Kopylov, at the end of the day, has his grappling improved leaps and bounds? Absolutely. He is training over in Dagestan and whatnot, training with the Russians. His takedown defense is getting better and better. But we haven't seen him fight someone like Hernandez. You know, the closest would have been Duraev, and Duraev is a gas bag. Hernandez is not a gas bag. Dude is just going to keep going and going and going. And every time you think you have a little bit of hope, he's not going to stop and to take you down again and again and again. So for me, I think Fluffy takes this fight. I think maybe he can break Kopylov. If not, he'll win the decision. Can he get knocked out? Absolutely. We've seen him get knocked out before, and Kopylov is a sniper on the feet. He's a real good striker. But for me, this is a Hernandez fight. I think it's his fight to lose. I have him in a parlay with someone we'll talk about later. And yeah, that's the way I'm thinking here. How about you, Easy?
Yeah, you know I'm a huge Anthony Hernandez fan. I max bet him his last time out against Shabazian. He opened up around minus 325. And I remember telling people, I'm going to max bet him against Shabazian. He's going to melt this dude. The line opened at minus 325. And I'm like, well, looks like I'm not betting Anthony Hernandez. But then what happened? People started saying, oh, like Shabazian, you know, he's got good power. He's working on his wrestling, all this shit. And before you knew it, Mike, it was down to minus 180 for Hernandez. And then I was like, all right, now I'm max betting it. Now the price is where it needs to be. And he destroyed that dude. Got caught with a couple shots early, but you got to love the durability of Anthony Hernandez. This dude can take a punch to the face. I mean, this guy he's got a great chin. And my favorite combination of attributes that a fighter can have in any division is durability, pressure, pace, and just a ton of output, whether it be with the striking and pressure or with the wrestling and pressure, or even better if it's both. If you're just pressuring on the feet and landing a bunch of strikes and then using that pressure and that striking to set up the entries on your takedown, like Hernandez does, it's an absolute nightmare opponent to deal with. Most people won't even take fights against fighters like that. So, and now we're going to find out how much better Roman has got, because he's come a long way from the guy that got rear naked choked by Carl Roberson. You know, he's come a long way from the guy that got almost finished in the second round by a bum in Albert Duraev. You know, and like you said, I remember people saying like Duraev's a relentless wrestler. I'm like, yeah, for about 3 takedowns. And then he's completely fucking gassed and he's done and useless. And Hernandez is the opposite of that. This guy's conditioning, his ability to be able to push that pace and even push it past when he's tired. Because Anthony's going to be tired too at the end of the fight. But if he's tired, chances are you're either in the cemetery or in the hospital, because that guy only gets tired when he just lands 150 strikes and 10 takedowns. So it's going to be interesting to see how Roman handles this, you know, and the bookies are onto it. Dude, you know, Hernandez's third round prop is something like plus 600.
I pulled it up to ask you about it, and I just saw how I was like, oh, shit.
I mean, you know, you usually don't see like a plus 600 for anybody that's like you have to be like minus 1,000 for plus 600 to make sense for a third round prop. But that's how good Hernandez's pace is. And if you don't get him out of there early, he's just gonna he's never gonna fuck off. That's the thing, Mike. This guy refuses to fuck off, categorically refuses to fuck off, and it's going to be a style that we have not seen Kopylov deal with. But what we have seen is that whenever Hernandez gets that game going, it doesn't really matter who you are, it melts you. And Kopylov is probably going to be no exception. But this line is getting crazy, dude.
Yeah.
There's a ton of money coming in on Hernandez. He was just minus 170 about 48 to 72 hours ago. And now he's sitting around what, minus 230?
Yep.
Kopylov might get to a bettable price because that dude can bonk anyone. And Hernandez is weak to the body. And Kopylov's body shots and body kicks are top notch. And we've seen him finish fights with body shots before. Hernandez is not immune to that. So this is getting to a point where I might even have to bet against the guy that I max bet on last time, because this line is just getting a little bit strange. But I think it's Hernandez, and I'm calling Hernandez third round sub.
Yeah, so I should probably preface this. I did not parlay him at minus 230. I parlayed him, I think 2 weeks ago. It was minus 155, which I think is a completely different like a planet than we have now. I would not be parlaying him here, and I would be probably considering Kopylov, because I've been backing Kopylov since the Dariah fight, and it's been a damn money train for me. But I think it's important to know when to hop off, and minus 155 seemed like a pretty damn good price for what seems to be like a nightmare matchup for Kopylov.
It really is. It's such a bad matchup, but his conditioning looks to be getting a lot better, and he's already displaying 92% takedown defense. So just on paper, with those two things, he could be the kind of opponent that gives Hernandez some problems.
Yeah, for sure. We have seen him get knocked out, like Holland knocked him out. So it's definitely possible. But all right, we can move on to my second leg of the parlay. We've got Merab Dvalishvili versus Henry Cejudo. The fact that this is only the second fight on the main card is crazy, but just tells you what kind of card we've got here. So Merab, he's 16-4-0. He's 33 years old. If you guys don't follow me on Twitter, so anybody who's been watching me for a while knows 33 is like my number. It always has been like my lucky number. And just over the last 4 years of capping fights, I've noticed that there's so many like 33-year-olds every card. There seems to be, maybe I'm just like biasly noticing it, but seems to be more of 33-year-olds than other ages on average. So I said, screw it. I'm going to do a little experiment. I'm going to start tracking these guys and just see how they do. So if you guys like funny stuff like that, weird shit, check me out on Twitter. I'm posting that stuff now every week. My 33-year-old updates. Last week they went 1-4. Hyder Emil was the only one who pulled it off. So not a great week for the 33-year-olds, but yeah, just wanted to throw that out there. But back to the actual stuff. He's 5'6", Merab, and he's got a 68-inch reach. Cejudo, 16-3-0. He's 37 at this point in his career. 5'4", so he's going to be 2 inches shorter, and he's got about the same reach as Merab. Why don't you start us off, Wheezy?
Yeah, I'm on Cejudo here. I actually bet his money line because I saw it at plus 189 today, and I'm like, okay. Know, the thing about Dvalishvili is, the pace is there. I mean, I love Merab, and he fights very much the same as Hernandez does. A guy that I just talked about, and a guy that does the same kind of thing that Hernandez does, and I'm a huge fan of Hernandez. So of course I'm a massive fan of Dvalishvili, but this is the best wrestler that he's faced. And spamming 47 takedown attempts against Henry Cejudo is going to get you put on your ass with Henry on top of you. That's not going to work against Henry. I mean, don't come to the conclusion here that Merab is the better wrestler. Merab's got to win this on the feet with his volume and his pressure and his output. And he's got to avoid eating a big counter as well, because Cejudo's the more powerful striker as well. The karate stance for Cejudo, I think, is going to be a problem for Merab. Look, if you look at the grappling stats from the Cejudo versus Sterling fight, the grappling efficiency goes to Cejudo. I'll bring the numbers up for you right now. All right. And this is very important because Aljamain Sterling and Merab are two different type of grapplers, right? So Cejudo tried 8 takedowns and Sterling tried 15. So Cejudo had about 33 to 35% of the takedown attempts in this fight. But Cejudo had 5 minutes and 6 seconds of control time. Sterling only had 4 minutes of control time. So that's efficiency there. When you have 33% of the takedowns, but 55% of the control time, you're getting more control time per takedown, and you're getting up quickly when you get taken down. Also, Sterling completed 4 takedowns, and Cejudo only completed 3. So he's still got more than 50% of the control time with less than 50% of the actual takedowns. And when Sterling takes you down, it's a different threat because Merab's not getting to your back and winning minutes. Merab takes you down and then you get right back up. And him letting you back up is how he tires you out and how he wears on you. But Cejudo, like I say, if you try to take him down and get sloppy, you're going to wind up on your ass. He's going to inside trip you. He's going to hip toss you. He's going to put you on your head. And I don't like the fact that Merab has got to be the one that's going to be pushing the pace, because he's going to be walking into counters from that karate stance that thrives off of people pressuring you. You remember when people used to pressure Lyoto Machida? What would happen? Every time people were like, you know what, I'm fucking sick of this. I'm just gonna run in there. Dude, they wake you up and Herb Dean's in your face going, you all right, son? You know? He's very accurate and powerful too here. So Henry Cejudo's a better wrestler. He's more powerful. He's got the better wins. He's been a champion. He's got the 5-round experience, and Merab has the pace and the output and like just the legendary aura about him of this guy that never, ever, ever gets tired, that never, ever, ever fucks off. But I don't know if that particular combination of attributes is going to work against Cejudo. So I decided to take the shot on Cejudo plus 189 on the money line. I've passed 3 actuarial exams, my man, but I never got hired as an actuary. I have a statistics degree, and I've passed 3 actuarial exams, but they didn't want Uncle Wheezy working in their insurance companies for some reason. So here I am with my math mind breaking down fights on YouTube.
It's where you belong, Wheezy. But yeah, so for me, I am on Merab. He's my second leg of the parlay with Hernandez. Again, it was minus 185. Wasn't parlaying him at minus 230. I also have a plus 100 Merab ticket from a DraftKings opener. Couldn't track that, obviously, because that was there for like maybe, I think like a day or two. But no one can access it. So like I'm not going to go and track my plus 100 ticket on Merab. But for me, you know, people talk about the wrestling, and it all makes sense. You know, Cejudo is an amazing counter grappler. When he is taken down, his scrambling is elite. Merab doesn't have the control that Sterling does. He doesn't have the jiu-jitsu that Sterling does. Yeah. I just don't think it's going to matter. I just think that we're going to be on the feet for most of this fight. And, you know, I look at the Peter Yan fight, and I'm one of the biggest Peter Yan fans there is. Used to be. I'm starting to disown the guy recently. But I really thought that Yan had the takedown defense to keep it on the feet, and everything would be fine. And the thing is, you know, Merab did get 11 takedowns, but he only got like, I think, 6.5 minutes of control. He beat the shit out of Yan on the feet too. He won every single second of that fight. Yan didn't win, not just a minute. He didn't win a second of that fight, Yan. Merab just wouldn't stop. Doesn't stop. That pressure is relentless. And, you know, Cejudo's fought the best of the best, but I don't know if he's fought someone of this type, like this type of person who just won't fuck off, won't stop coming, won't stop shooting, and he doesn't give a fuck if he can't control you. He'll just do it again and again and again. He'll try for 40 takedowns and get you down on the 41st. And when he's not doing it, when he's not getting the takedowns, he's throwing strikes. He's striking with you. His striking's improved a lot. You know, Cejudo at 37, that is starting to get concerning for me. He is already 1 foot out the door once again, already talking about, you know, if I lose this, I'm probably done, which makes sense. If I was Cejudo, I'd also be done if my title shots are done at 37 years old, and you've already accomplished pretty much everything you could. And then also the whole coach thing is kind of weird to me. You know, you saw that video where he fired his coach. So I told him, you're off for this one. I think it's pretty clear that he did that in the background first, and then they did it for like the M for UFC, because no coach is reacting like that. Just like, okay, yeah. 30-second conversation. You're telling me no more. I'm just going to say, yeah, we're good. No way. That happened in the background. There's something going on there. A lot of question marks. And I just feel like Merab is just too much. He's too much. All the momentum is on his side. I think on the striking, he's gonna have the advantage. He's gonna be throwing more. He's gonna be landing more. He's gonna be backing him up. You know, like you mentioned, the karate-ish style of Cejudo, it'll be effective at range, but Merab is not gonna keep it at range for very often. He's gonna be pushing him up against the cage. He's gonna be throwing strikes in the clinch. So for me, it's hard not to like Merab here. Would I be backing him at minus 200? No. I did at minus 185. Even that felt a little bit shaky. but I put him in with Anthony Hernandez just because I feel like he's just gonna win this fight. I really feel pretty strongly about it, but I also can't hate on a plus 180 Cejudo ticket because on paper he's got everything he needs to upset Merab. He's got that counter grappling. He's got his own offensive wrestling. We've seen Merab be taken down himself, like in the Cody Stamen fight, for example. We've seen Merab get hurt, like against Marlon Moraes. So there's definitely upsides to Henry, especially at the huge underdog price. Just for me, I think that at the end of the day, Merab's just going to get it done.
It's a great fight, and you got two pace monsters in your parlay.
Yep, which I was pretty like. I love guys like that. I love them. I know you're also a JSP fan.
Yeah,
he's another guy who I just love to bet. Lost last time out. That was unfortunate, but I love these pace machines. And SD Crusader saying the firing thing was a prank. That would make sense. That would make sense. Because
yeah,
that was
I thought
weird.
he fired him because of those dumbass glasses that he wears. You know, I mean, I would have fired him for that, but I don't know. I don't know what he is as a combat coach. So we'll find out. You know, I mean, he's been with him forever.
Yeah, that whole thing was weird for me. So I'm not shocked at all that it was a prank. But yeah, great fight. Really looking forward to that one. And you know, if Merab wins this, he's definitely up next for the title. So I'm looking forward to that as well. But we can move on. Next up, we've got another really dope matchup. If you ask me, we've got Geoff Neal versus Ian Machado Garry. Neal 15-5-0. He's 33 years old, 5'11" with a 75-inch reach. Garry 13-0. He's undefeated. He's going to be 7 years younger at 26. He's 6'3", so he's 4 inches taller, and he's going to be at a 1-inch reach disadvantage. So for me, this is a really good fight. And honestly, I couldn't think of a better step up for Garry to test where he really is, you know, in the division. Because so far he's looked amazing. He's real good. And I don't want anyone to get the impression that like I'm one of these guys just trying to fade Garry every time. I've tried in the past, certainly, because I've seen holes, but I'm still seeing those holes. It's not about me not thinking he's legit. I think he's a title challenger in the future 100%. Is he going to be a champion? I don't know, but he's only 26 years old. And there's a lot to love about him. You know, he's improving constantly. He's one of these guys who doesn't become comfortable in one camp. He moves around. He's talked about wanting to get experience from he's to learn and to work with people from all different kinds of camps, backgrounds. He spent this camp in Shootbox. I think he was there also for the Neal Magny fight. I think that's why a lot of us bet that sub prop in that fight. And I will mention real quick, if you do like the Garry sub, if you want to take another chance, it's plus 700 on Bet Online, but before the show on DraftKings, it was plus 1,800. So pretty drastic difference. And if you think that's a possibility, I would take that shot. But I don't think that's that likely. I think if Garry wins, it's going to be by decision. He's very good at maintaining range. You know, I wouldn't say very good. He's good at maintaining range, but we have seen him hit a lot. You know, in the Gabe Green fight, Gabe was landing a lot. In the Song Kenan fight, Song was landing more than he should have been. Darian Weeks, it was his UFC debut, but against Jordan Williams, that was not the best look until he knocked out Jordan. He's definitely hittable, but he does maintain range very well. His striking is very clean, nice, crisp down the pipe. You don't see him throwing overhands or anything wild. Really nice leg kicks. He's a good grappler offensively and defensively, even though he can be taken down, but he's very, very well-rounded. But like, first off, the urgency or lack of urgency to finish is terrible. I mean, what was that against Neal Magny? Magny was dead. He was done. He was waiting for Garry to just finish the fight. And Garry was like, nah, I'm good. And then he goes for the sub with like 3 seconds left. I don't know what that was. And he's very, very open to the left counters, right? The left hook. Song Kenan knocked him down with that, right? And then I also noticed against Rodriguez also, he had a left hook right there, and he missed by like an inch. But if he landed that could have hurt Ian Garry too. So I think that's a hole. And looking at Geoff Neal, a guy who is a southpaw, who has a deadly left hand, who's a great boxer, has really good takedown defense. So it's pretty unlikely that Garry is able to successfully wrestle him when Rakhmonov couldn't even take him down once. This is a tough fight for Garry. This is a big step up, huge power like difference from anyone he's fought so far. And if Song Kenan can land the counter like that, I think that Geoff Neal can land a counter like that as well. And Geoff Neal, he's relentless too. And he's well-rounded as well. He can also wrestle. I wouldn't be shocked if he shot a takedown. Don't think he's going to get it, but it's something there. So I think it's a really close fight where there's definitely a hole there for Geoff Neal to take advantage. At the same time, there's some holes for Garry to take advantage of. The high kick, I think that's open for Garry. We've seen Neal get hurt with that before, and he hit it against Rodriguez, who's a southpaw, and Neal also southpaw. He's open to the same thing. So I think that's a possibility for Garry. I just think it's relatively unlikely. The way I decided to tackle this was I played the over 2.5. It was plus 100 when I got to it. And I liked it quite a bit just because I don't think either guy finishes the other. I know that I mentioned that there are openings for both guys, but I think that if you play this out 10 times, I think more often than not, it's going to go the distance. It's going to go over. So at 50% at plus 100, I'm going to take that shot. And then also DraftKings opened up today the finish only props, and they had finish only on Geoff Neal at plus 125 or plus 120. So I put a unit on that too, because if my over hits, I'm gonna get my money back unless Garry gets like a last minute knockout. And if a finish happens, I think the most likely person to finish is Neal. I'll be able to at least get some money back that way. So that's the way I decided to tackle it. I think it's a fantastic fight and a close fight, but I'm gonna pick Garry. But those are my two plays. How about you, Easy?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Bet Online, which is a very sharp book, they've got the finish only prop almost at a pick 'em for both guys. So they're telling you that even though Neal's probably only about 35% implied to win this fight, that he's got as good of a chance to finish it as Garry does. And then you look at the decision only, Ian Garry minus 500, right? And I mean, like, dude, my numbers completely back this up, right? You see Garry, he's attempting 13.43 strikes per minute at distance, and his opponents are only attempting 8.93. So he outvolumes them. He outlands them. He lands 7.48, and there's only 4.03 landed on him. So he's got a positive 3.46 distance striking differential, over 55% distance striking accuracy. But then, so that tells me that a guy like Neal, who only throws 11 significant strike attempts per minute at distance, but has 15.62 coming back at him, that Neal's not trying to outvolume his opponents. He's trying to land big on you. And he's got a 1.43% distance knockdown percentage. So we know that this guy can knock dudes out. And he's 9-1 to the KO in his career. And Garry's 7-0. These guys are both really good strikers. And this isn't going to be a wrestling match. Geoff Neal has only attempted 9 takedowns in 10 UFC fights, and Geoff Neal has 90% takedown defense against 29 attempts. So Garry would be dumb to try and wrestle here. These guys are going to strike, and I think Garry wins the minutes, and I think Geoff Neal is probably the guy that probably wins more moments here because he is the harder hitter. He is the southpaw. Head kicks, big left hands. The way he beat 7 shades of shit out of Luque was incredibly impressive. And
Really
he's fought the better brand of competition.
Hemorrhage.
What's that?
Gave him a brain hemorrhage.
I know. I mean, nobody had ever knocked out Luque at that point, and he beat him so badly that he actually knocked him out. So Neal's not to be trifled with. And this is, I think it's dog or pass here, because you can't get any value on Ian Garry decision only. But boy, if this guy Geoff Neal hits you, oh boy, you're going to be in trouble, man, because he's got a ton of power and he's tricky and he wants to be at distance striking range. He's getting the fight that he wants here. He's just going to have to find his opening. And Garry's smooth. He's very good, but only 55% distance striking defense. That's very concerning against somebody that hits as hard as Geoff Neal does. So I think it's kind of dog or pass here, but I don't have any action on this fight.
Yeah, definitely makes sense, but I'm really looking forward to that one. Should be a great fight and a great test for Ian Garry to see where he's really at, because Magny was a good win, but I think he can do better than that.
Yeah.
But moving on to our co-main event, might not happen. Like you mentioned earlier, Weezy, fight might not happen. But hopefully it does. We've got Robert Whittaker versus Paulo Costa. Whittaker 24-7-0. He's 33 years old, 6 feet tall with a 73-inch reach. Costa 14-2-0. He's 32, 1 inch taller, and he's going to be at a 1 inch reach disadvantage. Why don't you start us off, Wheezy?
Yeah, I didn't even tape this fight. I'm not even going to look into it because I'm pretty much sure that Paulo Costa is not showing up for this fight. I've got it right now on my spreadsheet as Robert Whittaker versus TBA. Because this guy Costa is just not serious about this anymore. He doesn't really show up to fight. The Luke Rockhold is completely washed and was retired. I think that's the only reason that he tried to make weight and show up for that fight. But he tried to get out of the Vettori fight. He wouldn't even accept a 195-pound catch weight three days before weigh-ins. He said I needed a 205, and then he weighed in late. He struggled to cut it. This guy is not a fighter anymore. I don't know what he does for a living, but it's not fighting. And if he shows up here, I mean, I just don't know. I mean, like, there's a really good likelihood that even if he shows up, that he's gonna just take a dive in the first round and leave with his show money. They had to promise Robert Whittaker his show money whether or not Costa showed up. Think about that.
Did they actually?
Yeah. That's a thing. Think about a corporation being in the situation where they were going to pay somebody not to work just because that was what it would take to get somebody to sign on the dotted line against somebody as flaky as Costa that people know doesn't show up to fight anymore. So one of my New Year's resolutions was to waste less time. Why would I fucking waste time taping a fight that's not going to fucking happen? And if it does happen, I don't care because I don't know where Paulo Costa is. And any kind of assumptions I'm going to make about his performance in the cage are going to be just that, assumptions with no basis in fact, because I don't know if this guy trains anymore. I don't know if he's working hard. I don't know what he's going to look like on the scales if he does show up. So I'm just staying away. I don't care.
Yeah, very, very fair. For me, I played Whittaker very early. I parlayed him with Tatiana Suarez when she was still on the card. He was like minus 218. I put 1.2 units on that parlay. Nothing crazy. I just think he's much more well-rounded than Costa. I trust him more. I trust him to want it more. He's a guy who he wants to keep fighting. He wants to keep being up there. He wants to fight for the title again. Who the hell knows what Costa wants? I don't know what he wants. But even if he was motivated, I'd still pick Whittaker because I think Whittaker just has more to him. Costa is a very plotty striker with a lot of power and great takedown defense. But Rob is a great minute winner. There was a lot of output. He's got really good range management. If your name's not Drickus and you're not flying in there with these ridiculous flurries, he's very good at keeping that range. And I think against a guy like Costa, he's going to be able to stay safe, maintain his range, pop in and out. I think he can get some takedowns. I know Costa's got phenomenal takedown defense, but Whittaker is a great wrestler also, and he mixes it in well. He's not just diving for takedowns. So I just think he's the better minute winner here. Costa, sure, maybe he's the better moment winner, but I just don't think he's really going to get too many moments. But I will say, I think my favorite play on this fight is the over 2.5. I got it at minus 125, or was that Fight Goes? I don't remember. I could be wrong there. I think it was Fight Goes. Yeah. I played Fight Goes at minus 125, and I like that quite a bit. I don't think either guy finishes the other. I think that Rob, if he wins, it's just him winning minutes on the feet, mixing in some takedowns. If Whittaker wins, if Costa wins somehow, I guess he's stuffing the takedowns and winning moments. He did have really good output against Vettori in that fight. It's a weird fight, but I think Bobby should take it, and I think way more often than not, we're going to decision. So I felt that minus 125 was pretty generous. That's probably my favorite play on this fight.
Yeah, my favorite play is staying away and then getting ready for this incredible main event.
Yeah, I'm very hyped for this one. So next up, we've got our main event of the evening, the featherweight championship bout between Alexander Volkanovski and Ilia Topuria. Volk, he's going to be 26-3-0, 35 years old. He's 5'6" with a 71-inch reach. Topuria, 14-0, undefeated. He's going to be 8 years younger, going to be 1 inch taller, and have a 2-inch reach disadvantage. I'll start us off. So I'm a giant Topuria fan. I've been a truther since day one. I bet him against Yusuf Zalal, I think at like plus money, something like that, which was amazing. I bet him every single time he's fought, except the Emmett fight, because he was like minus 350. And there is one hole about Topuria, which I'll talk about now, which is why I passed on the Emmett fight. Very similar to Usman. I've had the same read with Kamaru Usman for a long time. When they're striking, they do this thing where they'll duck their head down like this and just right in the way for a counter. And I was like, if Emmett has a shot here, it's taking advantage of that and catching him right on the chin when he does that. And that was my same read when Usman fought Edwards the second time. I was like, Usman probably wins, but if Edwards wins this, he's going to catch him when he does that. And he got him. It was the last second. It was crazy, but the read was there. And I just feel like Topuria, he does that, and it's not a great look. I also think that Topuria is not as technically sound as defensively sound as people are making him out to be. He is getting hit quite a bit. In the Bryce Mitchell fight, I didn't remember Bryce having so much success on the feet, but he did. Especially in that first round, Bryce was landing. Even early in the second, he was landing a ton. And Topuria was getting so like overexcited or just hunting that finish where he was swinging like a madman and just completely missing. You do that against Volk, the dude's going to piece you the fuck up.
Yeah.
Volk is one of the most technically sound people we've seen in the octagon. In my opinion, he's one of the greatest of all time. No matter what happens in this fight, the dude has already proven it. He is an absolute stud, going up in weight against Islam and having an extremely competitive fight that many people felt he won. Just tells you what you should know. And I just think there's so much recency bias. People, like anyone I talk to, half the reason they're betting Topuria is because Volk got knocked out by Islam. I understand the chin concerns, coming back, 5 months later? But there's a huge difference here, guys. Islam is a big lightweight. He's a guy who could probably go up to welterweight and be competitive. He's a guy who's very powerful. It's not crazy that he knocked out Volk. I mean, it's crazy knowing who Volk is, but it makes some sense, especially Volk coming off the couch on 8 days' notice to fight Islam Makhachev. I mean, you can't put so much weight on that. And I feel like anyone I talk to, that's what they're hanging their hat on. They're saying Topuria is just going to outstrike him and knock him out. I don't really get it. Topuria can get sloppy when he gets overexcited. Topuria tends to do that thing I said with the head ducking down. Topuria, I just don't think he's at the level of Volk all around. He can be taken down as well. His takedown defense is good, but he can be taken down. Bryce got him down and controlled him until the round ended. And Volk, he's not some stud wrestler, but he's a good wrestler, and he mixes it up when he knows he needs to, like in that second Holloway fight. When he was uncomfortable, he mixed in the takedowns. Yeah. His fight IQ is phenomenal. The dude knows what he needs to do to win. He knows what he needs to do if he's losing to turn it up and get that victory. And with a proper game plan, with an actual camp this time, I think this is a really, really difficult fight for Topuria. And I was going to bet Ilia at like plus 165 or whatever it was early on, plus 150. And then I waited to do my tape, and now we're almost even. Volk's like minus 125. And I'm thinking to myself, I got to play Volk. I'm going to. I don't normally like betting against guys I like and I want to cheer for. Like if Volk loses this and I have money on him, I'm not even going to be that sad because I want Topuria to be champ. But I'm putting money on Volk because I think this line is wrong. I think people are coming into this with a ton of recency bias. And it feels like most people that I'm talking to, they've already played him and they're just trying to make themselves feel better with the whole knockout from Islam and all that. And they're just not talking about what Volk does well. Like what Volk did to Max Holloway's up there in my favorite fighters of all time. I love Max. What Volk did to him in that third fight was insane. Max is one of the best boxers in the UFC, one of the best strikers in the UFC. And Volk dismantled him, completely dismantled him. And I think that Holloway is a better, just straight boxing. I think he's better than Topuria. Topuria does have those really nasty combos. He's very fast. He mixes it up, the head body knockouts, right? Those are super clean. But at the end of the day, like at range, I don't think he's like something phenomenal. And I think Volk, he's pretty damn phenomenal. So for me, I got to go with the champ. I think he's going to remind everybody who he is. And if that Islam knockout never happened, we would not have this line. It wouldn't be close. It would be Volk like minus 225. So I'm going to pick the champ here, and I think he's going to remind people who he is. How about you, Easy?
Yeah, so I'm not big on narratives, but the narrative surrounding that Volkanovski Makhachev rematch is so important to consider. This guy's coming off of elbow surgery. Now, that fight took place in October, I think, right? And Volk has elbow surgery in July. And the doctors tell him, like, when you read the article about, hey, Volk's going in for elbow surgery, what they say in the article is that he's going to have this elbow surgery, and then for 6 to 8 weeks, the doctors don't want him training at all. That means like treadmill, none of that shit, because of all the cleanup in there. They got to make sure that everything heals properly, right? And they can't have him out there training and stuff like that. So when he was cleared to train was about 10 to 14 days before he accepted the Islam fight in Abu Dhabi on 8 days' notice, up a weight class against maybe the best fighter pound for pound in the promotion right now. So he goes out there and he loses, and people don't seem to be taking into account all of those extenuating circumstances surrounding when and why Volk took that fight. He did it because he's kind of stupid, and they asked him for help, and he should have said, "Why are you coming to me for help? I'm a featherweight. I just had surgery. We're having this conversation while I'm pounding beers with my buddies. I'm not taking a Makhachev fight on 8 days' notice." But Volk is the GOAT. So he took it, and he took his lumps. But this is a completely different fight, guys. Topuria is half the size of Makhachev. Topuria is 10% the wrestler of Makhachev. Makhachev is probably even a better submission grappler, and Topuria is a phenomenal submission grappler. So, yeah, I love Topuria, though. I mean, the kid's only 27 years old. Yeah. How good is this guy? His grappling, he's 8-0 to the submission in his career. When you watch the early tape, he's not like this murderous power striker. He's a guy who takes you down and submits you. He suffocates you with his grappling. We haven't seen him go to that nearly as much in the UFC, just because his striking has taken those massive steps. And now here he is, where people are putting him in the conversation with Alexander Volkanovski, which he's not. Volkanovski's been in there against guys who have a combined UFC record of 160 wins and 69 losses. And in those fights, Mike, he's got a positive 2.19 distance striking differential against the elite fighters of the featherweight division. This guy is landing 6.36 and only absorbing 4.17 at distance. He stays behind a fast jab. He's got great leg kicks that he will employ if you wind up being too heavy on your lead leg. And guess who's heavy on his lead leg? A pure boxer like Topuria. He mixes in the grappling when he sees holes, like he did in the Yair Rodriguez fight, like he did in the Chan Sung Jung fight. You see him be like, you know what? I can take advantage of this guy's takedown defense and just go for it. Now, we don't really know about Topuria's takedown defense because he stuffed all those takedowns in the Zalal fight. And Zalal sucks at wrestling. Volkanovski's got 30 takedowns in 15 UFC fights. He outcontrols his opponents 23% to 5.5%. So, yeah, I'm going to be on Volkanovski here too. I'm going to bet the money line. I don't want to pass on it because I think if he looks like I think he's going to look here, this is the last chance that you're going to get Alexander Volkanovski at minus 125 versus any featherweight on the planet. Never again. And you're getting a recency bias gift because of that ridiculous circumstances that surrounded the rematch against Makhachev. So, yeah, I think Volkanovski is going to do the better work at range. And the one thing that you don't see in the stats that you talked about is the in-fight adjustment making. Volkanovski is the kind of fighter who can come in with plan A, go to plan B, go to plan C, and then find success with plan D in the 4th round. Topuria, I don't think he's like that. Topuria is an undefeated fighter. He's never really seen any adversity at all. He got dropped in the Herbert fight. He kind of got held against the cage a lot in the Zalal fight, but what happens if Volkanovski starts getting off on him? What happens if he gets countered every time he throws that jab? What happens if Volkanovski busts up that lead calf and maintains distance perfectly? What's Topuria's plan B going to be? What's his plan C going to be? Because I've seen Volkanovski switch up his game plan against the best in the sport in 5-round fights. His fight IQ is incredible. His preparation is incredible. His conditioning is incredible. So, yeah, if Topuria winds up winning the featherweight championship against the GOAT in Volkanovski at the age of 27 and I lose 1.25 units, I'm fine with it. I'll get to witness greatness. I'll get to witness somebody that could maybe even hold the belt for 5 or 6 years in Ilia Topuria if he winds up going out there and beating the brakes off of Alexander Volkanovski. But I don't think he's going to do that. I think this is going to be a good fight. I think Volkanovski is going to come out the other side with his hand raised. And let's not forget, he's undefeated at featherweight in the UFC. And you got to beat the champ to be the champ. So this could be a close fight where you think Topuria won 3 out of 5 rounds, but Volkanovski's still the champion, So a lot of times in those cases, the decision will go to the guy that already has gold around his waist. I think that's an important factor to factor in here.
I will say not always though. Like the Strickland Duplessis fight, that was not a clear Duplessis win, and they gave it to him anyways. So
I scored it for Duplessis. Actually, I know a lot of people had it for Strickland. I was drunk. I make no apologies for that, Mike. But it's something. And by the way, Lou Betcha in the chat. Can we fucking free Lou Betcha, please? What the hell is going on? We need an avalanche of emails going to that punk Elon Musk who's got him in the penalty box, permanently removed from Twitter. There is no Twitter without Lou Betcha. Free Lou Betcha. Get him back in there. I'm fucking tired of this shit. I swear to God, I'm gonna quit Twitter next week if this guy's not back on, because I don't need that bullshit app. I don't fucking need it, Mike. I need Lou Betcha on that app, otherwise it's worthless to me.
I'm with you, man. It's crazy because every day I see things on Twitter where I'm like, this is crazy, a crazy thing to say. And then Lou makes a joke. Some dickhead reports him, and he's permanently banned. What the hell is that?
I don't know.
I thought he was joking at first. I was like, there's no way they banned you for that. And they did. So
welcome to Joe Biden's America, Mike.
Not sure if he had much of an influence.
I'm glad you laughed at that.
Not sure he has much of an influence there, but yeah. So yeah, we're on the same page with Volk. It's entirely possible. I know a lot of people are likening this to like McGregor taking out Aldo. It's possible, but let's not forget that was a quick knockout. What happened if that fight got extended? It's a big question mark. We have no idea. And if Topuria doesn't knock him out, I think this is a really, really hard fight for him to win, personally.
It's a great, great, great fight. Could be a changing of the guard, or it could be just another chapter in Volkanovski's masterpiece that he's written in the featherweight division in the UFC.
Yep, I'm with you. But all right, guys, that is a show. That's UFC 298. We're getting this close to UFC 300. Apparently, we're getting our main event this weekend, which tells me that Dana still doesn't know what it is.
Yeah.
But hey, it'll be something. If it's Bilal and Leon, fuck it. It is what it is. Bilal deserves it. If it's something else, great. But we'll see. But this card itself is really dope. Really looking forward. Wheezy, thank you once again for coming on. As always, brother, it's a great time breaking down fights with you. Why don't you plug yourself? I'll plug myself, and then we'll get the hell out of here.
Yeah, 15 minutes from now, you can find me on my YouTube channel, Uncle Wheezy, where I will be giving all the exact same takes on these fights that you just heard here on Couch Warrior Show. I'm going to break down all these fights, give you a dog pick, finish with Uncle Wheezy's ass shaving of the week, and show you my track bets for this week. You can find me on my YouTube channel, Uncle Wheezy. You can find me on Pub Sports Radio, and my Patreon has access to the best statistics and analytics for UFC gamblers. I've got a new product coming out at the beginning of March, which is going to have not only the prop template, but also a prop betting template for KO, submission, decision, inside the distance, split decision, bets according to the metrics for the division, weighted with the fighters' offensive and defensive performances. Also, weighting those outcomes by win probabilities. One of the highest, it's really one of the highest level analytical tools that could possibly be available here to the circle of people that we know that break down fights on YouTube. I'm really looking forward to breaking that down. So you can check me out at patreon.com/Uncle Weezy. Let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC 298.
Yes, sir. Make sure you guys are checking him out. I'm sure all of you already do, but if you're not, get over there for me this week. So tomorrow I will be AWOL, missing in action. It's Valentine's Day. But on Thursday, I am going to be interviewing Jose Johnson. That won't be live, but I'll be dropping that on Thursday night. Going to be talking to him. Should be a great time. And then later that night, we'll be going live for the panel. Me and my co-host right here, Tyler138 MMA. We're going to be joined by MMA prediction guru. I know it's confusing. There's like 14 gurus, but he's one of them. He's got a really big following, so most of you guys probably know him too. And then Dravi, relatively new fellow, but super sharp. Another great guy. He'll be on there with us, so make sure to check that out. I'll be dropping my YouTube shorts probably Thursday, maybe Friday, just because tomorrow I'm busy, but we'll see. Those will be out, though. Don't worry about that. And then if you're not already in there, check out my Discord. It's 100% free. I don't charge a damn penny, but I post my notes in there for every single fight. I post my bets when I make them before I put them on Twitter. And we talk about all kinds of fights. We talk regionals because a lot of us do regionals. And it's a great time, so make sure to check out the Discord as well. Thank you guys all for tuning in, for hanging out with us. Still a ton of people in the chat. Appreciate you guys big time. And peace out and good luck this weekend.